Hey everybody, it's me, Civilla Morgan. This is episode 165. Welcome. I just wanted to stop by for just a few minutes because I don't want July to go away without recognizing and celebrating the fact that this is year 9 of this podcast. This is my 9-year podcastiversary for the Childless Not by Choice podcast. And I want to thank you for listening. Some of you are new listeners. Some of you have been listening from the beginning. And in either case, thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. 9 years is no small feat. I just didn't want to make a big deal out of it this year. As many of you know, I'm still dealing with a lot and heading into a busier time of my life, which I'll tell you a little bit about that in just a second. But I just wanted to at least stop by before July was out to say thank you. I really appreciate you for tuning in every month. I know it used to be twice a month and it's been once a month for the last few years. I appreciate your patience with that. Maybe one day I will get back to twice a month. I'm not really promising anything right now because I am heading into a busier season of my life. So anyone who knows me knows I do not like to overpromise. I don't like having a ton of things on my plate, but sometimes that's how it ends up. A lot of times for me, it's not even that it's a lot of things on my plate. It's just 2 or 3 really big projects. And so I don't like to overpromise at all. I'd rather say no. I'd rather just say no than make sure that there are no hurt feelings, mine or somebody else's. But yeah, I want to stick to the 1 episode per month for the foreseeable future. But yes, I wanted to thank you for listening, for tuning in. If you're sharing the podcast, if you are reaching out and telling me how you like the podcast, which I just went to the childlessnotbychoice.net site and noticed that there were some comments there. I don't know why I don't go there looking for comments. I go there to look at the page, make sure everything looks good, make sure that the most recent episode is showing, that I leave, and then I'm like, wait, there are reviews here. There are people posting things. And so thank you. If you have not heard back from me to your particular post, I'd just like to say thank you for posting. And I'll try to respond to everyone as I can. I did respond to a few of them today. And so thank you very much for being a part of the Childless Not by Choice platform. Thank you for sharing episodes, for telling others about it. And even if you're not there yet where you can discuss it, to discuss your childlessness, your journey, or the podcast with others, that's perfectly fine. I totally get it. If you ever have any questions, please let me know. I know people have made suggestions for episodes in the past, and I've made notes of them, but I really do need to go back and take a look. And if you haven't seen anything on your suggestion, please feel free to just remind me or refresh my memory because it's been an interesting and difficult last few years, actually. When you're caregiving, things just can be really crazy. And so if you feel like you really want to hear my thoughts or an episode on a particular subject and you have not heard about it, feel free to reach back out. It will not upset me at all because I know that some things are just not happening because, there's just a lot going on over here. And I know that sometimes that may sound like I'm ready to just put the podcast down or put it aside. I don't see that happening, at least not in the foreseeable future. I think what saved me the last few years is that I've been able to take a couple months off every year from having to produce a fresh episode. Some of you know that those 2 months are October and November. I typically take those months off from producing fresh episodes, but I'm typically also still working in the background. But it gives me a little breathing room, and that's what's kept me from just putting the podcast down, which is something I definitely do not want to do. I don't want to do that because I can see how the episodes are reaching people, and they still continue to help me, to be honest. Being able to continue to talk about our journey as childless not by choice women, encouraging you, especially if you are just finding out that you will not be having any children. That's the tough part of the journey, is to just find out, and then now what? What do I do now? And the fear and the tears and the sadness, the grief, because it is grief that comes with just starting out on that journey. I just want to make sure that you hear a continued voice. I know there are other voices in the space different voices are helpful to different people. So no worries about that. I'm glad that the Childless Not by Choice space has grown so much. There are other podcasts to listen to. I think it's all fabulous because what I really want to happen is for the world to finally get it, that we do exist, that we're not simply crazy cat ladies, as one politician here in the U.S. has said about some of the childless politicians. Yeah, he said that. And, the thing about that is that people make comments without knowing people's stories because we all have a story. And it's not fair and it's not right because even though we did not get to have the children, of course, we are invested in the future of our individual countries and communities. How could we not be? We're still human beings. We still have to live. We still have to live under our individual governments, whether local or national. And so, yeah, we want to have a place at the table for sure. And so I don't like when people say that we don't have a vested interest because we don't have children. That is so unfair. And that's why the Childless Not by Choice platform growing, having different voices is really important. And that's why I am just pushing for one of these days that we get to such a national stage that we cannot be ignored. That people, politicians, well-known people in any space, they will not be able to look the other way because they'll realize we do exist. We do care about the future, even though we don't have children. And we are living a different life, but it's not a lesser life. That's why I want to continue the podcast. So I really am looking forward to that day. And I know other people in this space are as well. And I would imagine you are as well looking forward to that day that we don't have to keep explaining why we don't have children or listening to people who should know better say we don't have a vested interest because we don't have children. We need to get to a national level so that people understand that there's not just one journey in life. There are many, many journeys, and we are, as childless, not by choice women, living one of those journeys, and that's it. It doesn't make us less informed or less involved. It just puts us on a different journey. Well, like I said, I don't want to stay too long. I just want to recognize the fact that we've been doing this for 9 years. I want to also make sure that if you haven't listened to the previous episodes, please do so. I'm looking at my episodes now. I know that the most recent one, the issues of race in the medical community, that was probably a heavy hitter for a lot of you. And so I hope that you will listen if you have not yet listened. The episode before that was Father's Day. That was the June episode where I took the opportunity and the time to honor my dad, who, as many of you know, I lost in September, and my heart is still broken into a million pieces. Some days are better than others. We know what grief is all about. We know that some days are better than others. Sometimes the grief just kind of creeps up on you out of left field and you didn't see it coming. And yes, it comes in waves and all of those things. So still, dealing with that. And I don't have a timeline on it. I will just go with the flow and go with the waves and continue to miss my dad, miss my mom, but continue on with the journey that I have been given and do the best with that particular journey, which, as you know, is what I ask you to do as well. And as I said, I know that it's harder for some of you because you may just be starting out, or you may be in the middle of the journey and you're still struggling. Again, no timeline because we all deal with things in different ways. So just because you may be maybe older like me, you may still have that little missing piece, which honestly, I think we're always going to have that little missing piece, puzzle piece. I know some of you have seen that graphic that I use from time to time, that red heart-shaped puzzle where there's a puzzle piece missing. I think that's probably going to be the case, but it's how we manage that missing piece that's going to give us a great quality of life. And so that's what my platform is all about, my podcast, to remind us that we must continue on our journey and not get stuck in the fact that we didn't get to have the children and or the family or the husband or anything that we so expected that we would have because it just didn't work out. But life is short. What kind of life do you want to live? Do you want to live your sibling's life, your sister or your brother's life, your cousin's life, your parents' life, a friend's life, because they got everything and you didn't get any of those things? Or do you want to live the life that you were given? Because it's easy to just become a wallflower, a background person, a built-in babysitter, whatever it is that, we want to call it. Or we can get up and say, you know what? I'm going to go to the beach today. I know I was invited to this thing, but no, I think I'm going to do something for me today. I think I'm simply just going to stay home. Those are the things that we talk about on this podcast all the time, just creating those kind but firm boundaries. And so I just want to remind you on this 9-year podcastiversary, it won't be easy, but create and keep those kind but firm boundaries and live your life. Don't live somebody else's life. Life is too short for that. And we only get one life. So make sure that you're living your best, most relevant and joyful life, and make sure that it's not always going to be what you want, because, we want to be a part of some type of friend or family unit. So that's fine, but it shouldn't never be what you want to do. You shouldn't never be able to just get up and go to the beach or go to a movie or take a trip. Recently, I took a trip to Washington, D.C. I'd never been. My dad had been many years ago and he had told me about it. And I said, you know what? I think once I got everything wrapped up with all of his affairs and everything, which took such a long time, so many months, but once everything got wrapped up, I said, you know what? Let me go on a trip before I start work. And I took a trip and went to Washington, D.C. for several days. And I don't know if you all know this about me, but I love museums. If there's a museum in any town that I go to, any place that I visit, any city, state, country, if there's a museum, I'm going. I'm going to find out about it, and I'm going to that museum. So can I tell you that I was in museum heaven in Washington, D.C.? I went to so many museums. It was unbelievable. My feet were on fire. But I loved just being able to go to the National Portrait Gallery, where the portraits of the different presidents are, and Michelle Obama, of course, I took a picture with her portrait, I should say. And I was able to go to several of the Smithsonian museums, natural history, and a couple of other ones. The African American Museum, the Indian American Museum, the Museum of the Bible, you name it. I went to almost all of them. There were a couple I didn't go to. And of course, I went to the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial. The Lincoln Memorial, that grabbed my heart. That made me, it made me come close to tears. And they're working on it. It's not going to be done till 2026. They're upgrading it and making changes and just fixing up and sprucing up the place. So I didn't just simply walk up the stairs. I had to walk up like 3 or 4 levels of ramps. It was a lot. And it was in the 90s in Washington, D.C. But I was not going to go to D.C. and not go to the Lincoln Memorial. So you know what I think I should do? I may post some pictures on this episode here, and so you can see a few things that I did. But it made me emotional to finally get up to the level where the memorial was, and there were people there from all walks of life, all races, all everything, and all countries. Everybody was there, and everybody wanted to have a picture taken of them with the Lincoln Memorial in the background. It was beautiful, you guys. It was unbelievable. So I made my way up there and got a couple of pictures. The other memorial that made me emotional was the Martin Luther King Memorial. It was unbelievable. My brother had told me to try to see it at night, but I didn't get to. I just missed that window. Apparently it's really beautiful at night, and so I took a selfie with that as well, and just had a great time in June going up to DC and seeing the White House and seeing the Capitol building and just seeing the seat of our democracy, really. It was pretty cool. So I'm going to put some pictures together in the notes for this episode so you can see a couple of things that I did. But yeah, that's where I've been. And this is what I'm working on. Future episode coming up is going to be an interview episode. Just trying to get everything and keep everything together with the podcast and with my new job, which is Basically, I am a CNA. I think I mentioned that I got my CNA license, certified nursing assistant. So that's what I'm doing now. No longer working from home. I did that because I had to manage caring for my parents, keeping an eye on them while working, which was interesting sometimes. But now that my caregiving days are over, I am putting aside the work from home jobs and I'm going back out to the real world and just really looking forward to what the healthcare industry has to offer. So that's what I'm doing. Quite a bit going on. I hope that you are well. Thank you so much for continuing with me all these years. And here's to another 9 years, unless I decide to stop. But like I said, I don't see that happening. We'll see. You know how life can be sometimes. But cheers to another 9 years. Okay. Talk to you later. Bye.